Hello and welcome to Cutting to the Bull in the Post-Truth Apocalypse. I'm Ben, and as always, I'm hanging out with Mike.
Hello.
Claire.
Hey.
And Pete.
Hey.
Today we're going to talk about Operation Northwoods, which is literally the daddy of every single conspiracy. In the modern era, let's say that.
Yep.
That's what I got from it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely fucking true.
It's quite a head fuck as well, really.
It is,
isn't
yes. Before we do that, let's thank some new and returning listeners. I'll read out a few. Netanyahu, is that how you say it? Netanyahu in Israel, I haven't had that one before. Mentor in Ohio. Montreal, Canada. Frankfurt, you're back. Welcome to you. Northampton, United Kingdom. Cumming in Georgia.
I want to go there.
Ironically, Chorley. Coming in your ears, Chorley FM, the old Max and Paddy thing.
Where the listener comes first.
Where the listener comes first. Ooh, what's that one? Balikpapan in Indonesia, Quezon City in the Philippines, Buffalo, New York, Thornton Heath in the United Kingdom, Niles, Michigan, Bengaluru in India, Valencia, Spain, Dublin, Ireland, Boardman, Oregon, Guadalajara, Spain, Ashburn, Virginia, Dexter, Ohio, and Madrid in Spain.
Dexter, Missouri.
I do apologise, Dexter, Missouri, what did I say?
Ohio.
Ah, well.
To be fair, right, getting the States from 2 letters, that's pretty good, to be fair. I wouldn't have had a clue on that
I've only
one.
been doing it 3 years, you know.
I wouldn't have had the foggiest. I'd have been like, Motown!
I think I can get them all.
I really want to live in Quezon City or whatever it was.
Because I know it's definitely not Montreal, because Montreal's in Canada, isn't
Yeah.
it? So,
Isn't
I
that
know
a
I
city,
wouldn't
is-
say that.
Isn't that a city and not a state as well?
Do they have states in Canada?
They're
Yeah.
provinces, I think.
I think
aren't
so, provinces, yeah. I don't know, we've got a Canadian listener somewhere down there, you tell us, mate.
Yeah, let us know.
Alright, Operation Northwood. Now I have to go back in time a little bit to give the background to this, but it's fair to say that the US and Cuba have had strained relationships since 1958. Obviously that escalated and we'll get onto that shortly.
they? Well, why?
I'm going to get there now.
Why?
Because of the Cuban...
Well, I know why, but I'm just trying to...
Because of the Cuban Revolution, like,
That's it.
started in 1953, led by Fidel Castro, with the best beard in dictators.
Who's that guy? I don't think I've ever heard of him.
with his mate, Colonel Gaddafi.
Che Guevara,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
isn't it?
No, see,
They all look the same.
He was mistaken. My 14-year-old nephew came in and said, why have you got a picture of Colonel Gaddafi on the walls a few years ago when Gaddafi was in the news?
That is quite funny though, isn't it,
Yeah.
to be fair? They all have a very similar look, don't they, the 3 of them? And they've all had similar portraits done of themselves, haven't they, I think?
now, remember, Fidel's fully bearded.
Yeah.
Fidel has the best beard of all the dictators. Best facial hair out of all the dictators, Fidel. Gaddafi was definitely the best dressed.
Yep.
And in a way the most modest, because he never promoted himself above colonel.
That's true, he didn't.
And Fidel Castro, as we know it, takes power on the 31st of December 1958, and all of a sudden the US has got a bit of a problem. Because Castro is, although technically a socialist, he aligns the party to Marxist-Leninist ideals.
Okay.
And they've overthrown the American military-backed dictatorship
Yes.
that was working for US interests, basically, and
Obviously there was that
not
great...
caring about the Cuban people
No.
at all.
Wow.
But the US,
Wow.
which is fighting its Cold War against Russia and therefore the communist world, is all of a sudden going, well shit, maybe we've got a communist country just popped
Right
up
on our
90
doorstep.
miles off our coast.
There's another one of them.
Well, it was the domino theory. They had this. I don't know if this was a bit later, where they developed it or they added this, but the domino theory, where if one state falls to communism, then the next state falls to communism, and the next state, and the next state, and that's why they got involved in Vietnam, because Vietnam had fallen to communism, so therefore it made sense that Cambodia and Laos would fall to communism, and it would spread all the way across until what happens? You get to India, and all of a sudden you've got another billion communists you've got to worry about.
Damn communists.
Damn commies.
But this is what American foreign policy was based on: stopping other countries becoming
Yeah,
socialist.
stopping the spread of communism.
So whose decision is it to decide whether communism's a bad thing?
Well, exactly. If the people vote for it
Yeah.
in fair elections, then surely it should go ahead, shouldn't it? That's what the will of the people.
Well, in
Yeah.
this
America
scenario,
don't want that, and they'll stop that at any cost. Like, they'll infiltrate the government. They'll try and make a coup.
Well, it's not a
Get rid of the
fall. It's not a
government.
fall to communism, then it's a rise to communism.
Yes.
Is it not?
I need to make something clear. I've never understood communism. I've never understood what it all means. I've never been.
Shall I give you my layman's?
I've never been interested enough to think. What is communism? What is socialism? All these different isms.
So wouldn't they all
I've
just
never
get paid,
understood it.
You all get paid the same. You all sort of like, as a society, everybody lives the same sort of standard of living.
But you don't live the same standard of living.
No, because usually there's somebody at the top that has to run it all, and then they become a dictator and greedy and this, that, and the other.
It all
then
goes
they
to pot.
But the idea is that the people own the means of production. So instead of having bosses, employers that take the profits spread amongst the people, the workers.
Well, it goes back to the state where it's turned into other things like, it's paying someone's wages to make the bread or to import things or what have you. It's...
So you can see positives in it then?
Of course.
There are positives.
There's a lot of positives, it's just not been implemented.
There's a lot of
over
positives
the
for
years.
Cuba, because even when the Soviet Union fell, Cuba is still a socialist country, aren't they?
They're less socialist now, but
Well,
they've
Naval's
opened
dead.
up a little bit, haven't they? But yeah, they are still technically a...
And they have one of the best health...
They have no. They don't have one of the best healthcare systems because it's crumbling, but they have the most doctors per capita.
Yeah, they have the most...
Their hospitals aren't the best funded.
Maybe not, but they have some of the best outcomes. Especially of countries in that region.
Everyone can go and they've got one of the highest doctors per capita in the world, in fact, if not the highest, and everyone has free healthcare.
And a lot of their doctors they send to crisis places in the world.
A lot of them, I was looking into this, a lot of them do go to crisis things, but they also get paid more to do that than they do in Cuba. But still, it's free healthcare. And doctors are trained.
The standard of living in Cuba pre-Castro and post-Castro
Is
massive difference.
There is.
to
I mean,
people.
you're still poor.
You're guaranteed a
but
job.
You're less poor.
You're guaranteed a house in Cuba. You don't get that in capitalism, do you?
No.
If you're on the bottom 10%,
10%?
yeah, of capitalism,
I wouldn't say 10%.
Huh?
You're in the bottom 10% of incomes. You've got a flat.
I didn't say I was, and I said if you're in the bottom 10% of capitalism. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that you'd be better off being in the bottom 10% of in Cuba.
Yeah,
At least you're going to get a house, a job.
Oh
I know
yes,
what you
you've got a house, you've got a job, and that was the thing. Even
You've got the standard of living, haven't you?
even in the Soviet Union, if they saw you on the
Free
street
healthcare.
homeless, they would literally take you off the street, put you in a shared accommodation until they found you a job and a somewhere to live. I mean, I'm not saying that they were big, spacious, and luxurious. They were. You must have seen East Berlin, pictures of East Berlin, or any Eastern European country for that matter. Big, tall, square. Everything's concrete. Everything's grey.
Yeah.
It's all built up.
Looks a bit tired, doesn't it?
It looks a bit tired nowadays. It probably looked fantastic in the 1950s when they built it. Going back to your point about people voting for this, some did. Remember that this is 1953 to 1958 period we're talking about. The Second World War hasn't long ended. Yes, there were elections held in Eastern European countries, but Europe had already been divvied up and they were going to be under communist rule whether they liked it or not.
Yeah.
They may have had the odd election, air quotes, but it was heavily rigged in favour of the Communist Party because they're going to be living under the USSR umbrella.
Right.
I was talking more about the South American countries.
Oh,
like
well, yeah. I mean, South America is a different matter. I mean, but then again,
Argentina and Chile especially.
well, that was a military juntas.
Don't go down Argentina route.
Argentina and Chile were military juntas.
Yeah, they were US puppets, weren't they?
Well, yes, they were US.
They wanted to test neoliberalism in Chile.
It was so bad, this revolution, in fact, that Cuba became the focus of both the United States and the USSR. Simple fact is, the USSR sees it as a victory for communism. Even if it's an armed revolution and you've got that, you're in. The people have overthrown the capitalist yoke, and now they're going to spread the wealth amongst themselves and make themselves and the country rich. Is the idea, isn't it?
And they're going to get backing from USSR.
And they're going to get a lot of backing from the USSR. Because now the USSR has something...
An interest, a common interest.
They have a tactical country right on US border.
You're 90 miles off the US coast, right? You put nuclear weapons into Cuba in exchange for massive amounts of aid, money, infrastructure building, everything. You're beating the American early warning system.
Nukes 90 miles off. I mean, it's a matter of minutes.
Now I'm
isn't it?
getting a little bit ahead because, I'm not, because it leads to the Cuban Missile Crisis, but the Americans don't like the fact that this is a very real possibility. even though in 61, the Americans put nuclear weapons in Turkey, which was only 150 miles away from the Russian border, that was okay.
Yeah.
The Russians putting nuclear weapons into Cuba 90 miles away from America is not okay, even though they're both pretty much the same thing.
It's always been the same way with the US, so double standards, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. Very much so. No offence to any American listeners.
Which there are a lot of them. So
But I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably understand exactly what we're talking about.
yes.
Well, you live in a oligarchy now, so you don't have a say, basically, in how the country's run, so I don't blame them. But if any of the war criminals are listening, which I doubt it.
I don't very much doubt George W. Bush is listening to our podcast, Mike. Or Dick
They
Cheney.
can fuck off.
Rumsfeld. I don't think they're listening somehow. I very much doubt it. Tony Blair might be. He's a cashaw. Saint Tony.
Oh, it's Sir Tony now, isn't it?
Is he a sir?
He's been knighted.
Oh, fuck me, I wasn't even aware of that.
There was a petition to
Yeah,
get,
I
to
signed
get
the
it
fucker.
undone.
Over
as
a
well.
million signatures, wasn't there?
Every
Yeah.
Prime Minister usually gets a knighthood at some point. Every ex-Prime Minister.
Even the war criminals are.
I know. I
I
know.
can't see Boris Johnson getting a
Hypocrisy.
knighthood.
No, nor me. Might be interesting actually to see which way that goes, because if William takes the throne after Lizzie dies, although he's still obviously a monarch, he seems a little bit more liberal,
Normal.
in some of his views. So it might be interesting to see where that goes. So in 1961, the Americans try and do something about this, and you get the Bay of Pigs Fiasco. Now that is where the US basically got a load of Cuban exiles, the US military, the CIA, trained them, armed them, and said, right, you're going to launch the invasion of Cuba, because even though there's been a revolution, we're confident that the majority of people don't want to live under that rule, so we're going to train you guys, a few thousand of them, you're going to storm the beach, the Bay of Pigs, and you're going to sort of whip up the population to join you, and you're going to overthrow Castro. This wasn't going to work because these guys were, actually a bit iffy. They fled Cuba for not just political reasons, because they were actually wanted for some crimes.
That's another thing that Castro did, wasn't it? He
Emptied the jail. Well, they were like, oh, you don't like the regime, yeah? All right, off you fuck. And you think anyone?
All the murderers and all the rapists go to America.
Yeah.
Pretending, because they're going that America will welcome them as.
I'm a political prisoner.
Yeah.
I was a political prisoner. Scarface, you seen Scarface?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
haven't got
Castro's
any
like-
papers or anything, have they? They just got,
Yeah, exactly. You've seen Scarface, haven't you?
They basically make their own newspapers, don't they?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, they just
About
go,
that way.
what you
What's
got?
your name and
Yeah.
things like that. They can tell them anything. What do you want your new name to be?
Yeah.
That used to be a
Yeah.
question they'd ask you.
Well, they changed their name at Ellis Island when they docked in the US.
Yeah,
That happened for years.
Yeah.
If they had a Jewish-sounding name,
That was it.
they
Yeah,
would change
that's right.
it. That's why you've got lots of Smiths instead of Goldstein. You've got Goldsmith.
Right.
Basically, Kennedy is being pressured into trying to declare war on Cuba. And this is a little covert attempt that he has sanctioned, but the generals and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who at this point in time are just... You think they're bad in 2003 for being war hawks? We've got nothing on these boys.
Yeah.
Nothing on them. Interestingly, Kennedy taped every single one of the conversations he had with
Did he?
the generals in the Oval Office during this period and the Cuban Missile Crisis, and they have zero respect for Kennedy. Because these are all World War II cigar chomping. I mean, you've got Curtis LeMay, who was head of the US Army Air Force in World War II. Bomb them all, fuck it.
Psychos, aren't they?
These guys, they wanted the showdown with the USSR because they knew that they, in their head, we're gonna have to fight them one day. We might as well get the first punch in.
Well, he was proved right, wasn't he? Not.
Patton in 45 was like, why are we sending everybody home? We're gonna fight the Reds one day. We might as well do it while everyone's here.
He wanted to use tactical nukes, didn't he?
No, Patton was dead by then. You're thinking of MacArthur.
MacArthur.
Wanted to use tactical nukes on the Chinese. Tiny little Berlin brigade that's stationed there. They're going to cross the Rhine or the Elbe, I forget which one it is, the Elbe. You fucking saturate that area with these tactical nuclear weapons, battlefield nukes, because they outnumber you 3-4 to 1. And then,
Bit of a scorched earth approach, isn't it?
basically, yeah, but then West Germany obviously
They had this for thousands of years.
West Germany surprisingly wasn't very happy about
Yeah.
that, and they threatened to pull out of NATO.
Not surprising.
And then they realised that, well, we can't have NATO really without West Germany, because that's kind of the whole point of NATO, isn't it? Protect the West.
Why did NATO not disband when the Soviet Union disbanded?
Because they'd already become too powerful an organisation, I guess. Anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. The invasion's not going well. The Cubans have met these guys on the beach in the Bay of Pigs, and these guys are pinned down. And the generals pressure Kennedy and saying, look, they need air support, let us launch US Navy or US Air Force planes to give them air support direct on the beach, and Kennedy turns them down. They try and get even just 20 minutes of air support. Flat out refuse. He's like, you had your chance, you took your gamble, it failed.
Fair enough, I think.
Yeah, because it's a first strike on a... It could start the war between the US and the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
It kill millions.
But don't worry, because we get that the next year, in 1962, with the Cuban Missile Crisis. I apologise if this is turning into a bit of a history lesson, but I have to give the background to understand the point of Operation
Well,
Northwood.
not everybody knows, so yeah, good.
Yeah. And now, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, leaders of the US and the military staff over the installation of nuclear-armed Soviet missiles on Cuba, just 90 miles from US shores. JFK notified Americans about the presence of the missiles, explained his decision to enact a naval blockade around Cuba, and made it clear the US was prepared to use military force, if necessary, to neutralise this perceived threat to national security. And it wasn't just, remember, Cuba is not just the nuclear weapons. If the Russians started putting troops into Cuba, they could be on American shores so the Americans can mobilise. They could invade it the good old-fashioned way. Before you know it, you've lost several major ports in Florida and Alabama. The Gulf of Mexico has been blockaded, you've lost your oil.
There's a good film about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Kevin Costner's in it.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought you said it was a good film.
Kevin Costner, get the fuck out.
No, I'm joking. Long live Kevin.
Yeah, and his mullet.
Mike has a bit of a...
As long as he does a rerun of...
Everyone forgets that he was
Robin
in some
Hood.
damn good films
He
at the
was
time.
in some-
Robin Hood,
Yeah.
JFK,
yeah.
Dances with Wolves.
Dancing with Wolves, fucking legend film. Postman.
Don't you dare...
I like the Postman.
Don't you dare put the Postman.
I like the Postman.
Never
I've
seen that.
watched it.
Fields of Dreams,
Yeah.
is it? Field
Field
of
of
Dreams.
Dreams.
That was a good film, actually. I did watch
Decent.
that. Just it was it's a different kind of film, but yeah, it was a good film.
He made a good film
He
called
was good actor.
Fandango, if anyone's ever seen that.
No.
Does he say Scaramouche? Scaramouche. Will you do the Fandango?
And the
One of his early
classic
ones.
Waterworld.
Well,
Oh
yeah, yeah.
god, fucking Waterworld, that
Yeah,
was
that's
terrible.
when it went down a bit.
I liked Waterworld, I gotta say.
Did you?
Yeah, man.
I felt sorry for Dennis Hopper.
With his eye.
I thought
Just because I thought he was a decent actor previously.
I don't think it's as bad as everyone makes it
background.
out to be.
Do you know why it's remembered as being a really shit movie? Because it cost like
it was
a
very
ridiculous amount of
expensive,
money for the
wasn't
time.
All they needed is a boat in the sea. What the actual fuck?
They built them that big fuck off tank
Yeah.
Yeah.
full of water, because that's where they filmed Titanic in the end.
Huh.
Filmed it in the same tank of water.
Madly.
Now, Khrushchev, I actually like the Soviet premier, Nikita Khrushchev. World War II veteran, Stalingrad. Obviously, he was some kind of political rank, I think. I'm not sure. I don't know that much about that. No, he was there. A little bit more liberal than Stalin.
Doesn't take a lot.
Doesn't take a lot. And he actually really wanted Kennedy in charge of the US. He actually said to the Soviet embassy and the CIA, the KGB posts in America, look, I want you to do whatever you can to get Kennedy elected. Because he thought this was a man he could talk to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there may have been a bit of a power play as well, because Kennedy was young and inexperienced, and Nikita Khrushchev was probably in his 60s at this point and had been playing the game for quite a while. Well, certainly his 50s. He'd been there from day one of the revolution, virtually.
1894 he was born.
So he'd have been a teenager during the Russian Revolution, in his 20s during the Russian Revolution.
Yeah.
Now, following this news, many people feel the world was on the brink of nuclear war. And then a disaster was avoided when the US agreed to Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev's offer to remove the Cuban missiles in exchange for the US promising not to invade Cuba. And Kennedy also secretly agreed to remove the US missiles from Turkey.
But they put them back in, didn't they? They're there now,
If he
aren't
did
they?
it secretly,
Probably.
no.
I wouldn't like to say,
I
actually,
think-
the US doesn't tend to keep
I
nuclear
think Reagan
missiles
put
on.
them, I think Reagan put them back
No,
in.
I'd imagine it would have been LBJ after Kennedy put him.
Right.
Because that's a lack of... That's why it's secretly agreed. Well, you've just put these missiles in. It's cost a lot of money to install these things and ship them there. And now you've got to uninstall them and ship them back. And also, you're not as, quite on the Soviet border as you wanted to be. But of course, it's not okay for the Russians to be on the border of you.
Yeah.
Classic Roman tactics, isn't it? Those guys over there look dodgy. Better attack them and invade them.
You'll probably find the missiles were never removed from Turkey. They were just deactivated or something. You'll find there'll be some little fucking base somewhere that's been covered over a bit. It's still got them sat there, deactivated.
We can only go historically at this point
Yeah.
and said that he would remove the missiles. So the silos may have stayed, but the missiles might have been, or certainly the warheads would have been removed.
Yeah.
So this leads us to
Just
Operation
in case.
Northwoods. Starts in 1962.
Why was it called Northwoods? Do we
This is
know?
where they just randomly give these names.
Yeah. I thought it might have something to do with Oliver North.
No. Now the USA really wants to invade Cuba. Yeah? But we don't go to Operation Northwood straight away. We got something called Operation Mongoose.
Yes.
And that's replace, kill, or diminish Castro's influence.
Yep.
This was mad. And this is peak Cold War madness, which I love peak Cold War madness. Like, let's nuke the moon to see what happens. Right? They were going to put exploding seashells, which had been placed by US Navy divers at Castro's favourite beach. Let's not forget exploding cigars, obviously, the big one. My favourite, as you know, I'm not going to do my favourite yet, training one of his ex-lovers to murder him during sex.
It's the way to go.
And my personal favourite is basically giving Castro high levels of chemicals and estrogen to make his hair fall out and give him tits,
Yeah.
which would lose his manly, rugged persona. That is just genius and madness rolled into one ball and thrown into a CIA pitch meeting. Let's
How
give him
would they-
estrogen.
How would they execute
My
that?
worth has been tasting funny recently.
Change his water supply.
They'd
Yeah.
have the
I don't
idea
know whether
is
that's
that-
how they speak. I do apologise.
Sounded a bit Russian.
I know it did. I do apologise.
I guess the idea is that they would flip someone on in the inside, a maid or someone like that, give them a lot of money. I'd imagine that was the plan. But then then the Joint Chiefs got this report. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, the top generals of all the US Armed Services are there, the top guys, and they're like, "But why God? They have extreme lengths. Cuba's a nail, and we're a hammer, and we're at the minute in 1962. We're a pretty good hammer.
The biggest hammer.
We're one of the largest, powerful militaries on the planet.
He's got a point, hasn't he?
And what happens to nails? They get hammered, much like me during this podcast. And that's when you come to Operation Northwoods, because they're like, right, let's not dabble with any of that weird crap. Oh, the exploding cigars, yeah, he likes a cigar. Might get in that way. Apparently would have never worked.
Why?
Charge wasn't big enough. Might have injured him,
Yeah.
but the heat from the cigar would always set it off prematurely.
Not a good idea then.
So it would have never worked. The USA really wants to invade Cuba and topple Castro. Certainly, anyway, let's not say America, let's not say the USA, let's not say Kennedy. Their military does. Because these boys are fucking war hawks. I can't overstate this enough.
Well,
they want the big showdown. They've got all this kit, they've got all this lovely shiny new kit, these jet fighters, these thermonuclear weapons, these automatic weapons, these brand new tanks.
It's almost like a warm up to Vietnam. So it wasn't far off this lot, was
Well, in
it?
1962 you started to
Vietnam.
escalate in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Well,
Remember they went
yeah.
in there as
Advisors
to the French, wasn't it?
Advisors to the South Vietnamese.
Because the French had
The French had already got their ass kicked by this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Brief history of that, very brief off the top of my head, is that the Russians had occupied the north and the Allies had occupied the south. It was returned to France after the war because it was a former French colony. The north basically kind of, it's much the same as they do with the Americans. They infiltrate people in, they fought this guerrilla war. They did actually take the French on. The French lost, withdrew. Even for the French though, they had some badass moments during that.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. They put up a good fight, I'll give them that, but no Western army at the time could
That's
take
not
them.
been said very much, has it? Ever in history?
Yeah, actually, because the French were the dominant military power for a good 300-400 years in Europe.
Napoleon era.
Before that, Middle Ages.
Yeah.
You know,
the Gauls.
Nah, they got pissed over by the Romans.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got enslaved by them and shit, yeah. Forgot about
Ave Caesar. Roma Victor. But how would you launch an invasion and topple a regime whilst keeping your good guy image? Because at this point, to the world, you're the good guy.
Yeah.
You stepped in and kicked Hitler up the arse. You beat those dastardly Japanese who threw in a sucker punch against you.
And not just that, the Marshall Plan.
The Marshall Plan as well, remember?
They rebuilt Europe.
They're rebuilding Europe. They've given trillions in aid. They did the Berlin airlift where they were flying bombers in, dropping food, coal supplies, warm clothes into Berlin in the middle of a Soviet winter blockade. I can't remember if that was Khrushchev or Stalin now, actually.
Was that Roosevelt did the Marshall Plan? He was dead by then, wasn't
No, it would have been Truman.
he? Yeah.
But General Marshall was General Marshall was the guy that basically came up with it. It's like, look, we need to turn these guys into allies so this doesn't happen again.
We don't want another Treaty of Versailles.
We don't want another Treaty of Versailles. We need to actively help them to rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the best things Americans have ever done.
Yes,
So I
absolutely.
applaud it.
But the Cuban government, remember, right, it's done nothing to the US. All it's done is reach out to a foreign power for aid and agreed a military treaty with them, which is no different than the Americans or the West has done with NATO or any other defence pacts they've become part of.
Yeah, the Americans, were, like I said, had that military dictatorship, didn't they? Of Cuba.
They certainly propped it up.
Yeah.
They gave them the weapons and the funds to probably because it was beneficial to America.
American companies.
Wasn't it the basically the banana wars at the turn of the 20th century where the Americans got involved in South America? It was because of some canned
United Fruit.
United Fruit. It's mad. But at this point, it's about fear, and it's selling this fear. You need to sell a fear of Cuba to the population, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, look, the Reds have got Russians. They're Reds. They're going to use it as a springboard for invasion, or or take out our first strike capability. So back to my original question: how would you start a war and still be a good guy?
False flags.
Well, by only starting the war by retaliation because of...
Yeah, a false flag.
Yeah.
But they've already gone in with these. They've already gone in with them.
No.
2,000.
They were Cuban exiles. They were trained by the Americans, but for all the world knew at this point,
They were just
Pissed off
uprising
Cubans.
inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
An
Americans
inside
actually
job.
invaded.
which is why Kennedy
Proxy
wouldn't.
war, isn't
which is
it?
why Kennedy wouldn't have the airstrikes. The US couldn't be seen to getting directly involved. As far as the world knows, as far as the Cubans know, these are guys that fled after Castro lost. Castro won. They're on the losing side, and they've teamed up, trained, and come back. Joint Chiefs get to work. And originally they just want to bomb Castro, have it done, surgical strike, bomb his house, done, job done. Can't do it. You need an excuse, don't you? It's problematic. So they came up with a sneakier plan, but they still wanted to use the US military. And the US needs an excuse to invade Cuba. So Operation Northwoods is drawn up as a series of false flag operations to get public opinion to shout for war against Cuba. You want to attack the American nation and have everybody blame the Cubans for it. And they had a few ideas. And this is all legit. It's typed out in the Operation Northwoods documents. The reason this didn't come out, it's only come out in the last sort of years, 10, 15 years, is because no one was spending their time poring through released documents.
I'm not going to give them all titties and then say that there's a whole Cuba's got titted men that are going to infiltrate the US.
They do it on purpose, don't they? They dump it all in big batches.
Yeah.
So you got to sift through it to find the good stuff.
And it could, there's literally hundreds of thousands of pages which you're going through, reading every page. It took years at this point. So let's start with the first one, which is attack the Guantanamo Bay naval base, which is obviously, if you don't know what Guantanamo Bay is, It's a US naval base. It's still there in Cuba. I don't know why it's been allowed to stay there. I don't know if they leased it. I have no idea.
They got any prisoners in it?
They used to put the terror suspects there because they could torture them in
they're
Cuba.
Still there, some,
I think they might still be. I don't know if that base is
put
closed.
money on it. That it is still up and running.
Yeah.
I would put money on that. Definitely.
Obama tried to shut that shit down.
They called on him too. It was. I don't know if it's still going or not.
I think it is.
It's probably. They've probably still got some kind of naval presence there. The idea is that they either attack the base with disguised commandos, killing your own service people in the process, remember? Or by dropping mortars on the base from afar, destroying aircraft and equipment, material.
It says it's open now. Guantanamo Bay. It's open now.
Bookings.
Guantanamo Bay,
They're booking
naval base,
now,
Cuba.
Can you go for a visit?
At full hours, apparently. It says it is a United States military prison located in Guantanamo Bay.
Right.
So, it obviously is still operating.
Yep.
Now, remember they also...
Illegally.
Yeah. Now, also, agents inside the base were also potentially trying to destroy aircraft or even sink a US Navy ship, which would be full of sailors at that point.
Been done before, sinking in the Lusitania.
I was going to say, I don't know if you ever heard of the Remember the Maine incident.
No.
It's kick-started the Spanish-American War.
Yeah.
When there was a US battleship, the USS Maine. It was actually caught in Havana, of all places, in Cuba, and it exploded. 260 American sailors died, and it was the rallying cry to declare war on Spain. Remember the Maine!
If you look back in history, most wars have started with a false flag. Gulf of Tonkin, Vietnam. It's unbelievable.
911.
Well, it led to the escalation.
But it just goes to show how much normal people don't want war. It's these psychopaths have to engineer it.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about 9/11.
Well, I want to talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
Lots of theories on that one.
We'll save that for the
We'll
end.
save that for the end, because I want to ask you what else you think they've probably done.
We've got all
And-
night.
And
It's Friday.
The USS Maine incident, remember the Maine, was also probably a false flag. The thing is, in this scenario, is the blame falls on the Cuban military. Number 2, and this is the worst one, right? I'm throwing this in early. The Pentagon fosters a homegrown terrorist campaign against Miami, Washington, and other cities. The blame would fall on Cuban refugees living in the US. This would include the gunning down of American civilians in the streets and the planting of bombs in public places, and this would whip up public support for war.
With Made in Cuba written on it, obviously. Like a little Acme fucking bomb.
Maybe they leave some Cuban passports behind.
Just a little bit frazzled,
Yeah.
maybe well protected or something by something like metal that would have made sure that they were preserved in the fire. Oh, it just so happens they were eating a sandwich that was wrapped in really thick tin foil and it protected them.
They'll never explain that, but they don't have to anymore. That's the thing, right? Number 3. Actually, let's talk about number 2 more. Isn't that just 9/11?
Well,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. What we're saying, yeah.
whips up public support for war. Yeah, it's... Next one, sorry, number 3. Launch missiles against real or simulated boats of refugees. Blame Castro.
Yep.
Okay.
Builds up public support. Look what that evil man's doing
Yeah.
just off our coast.
And with
It's
the
killing
progressive
innocent
media, yeah, they can make it stick.
Of course. Number 4, now Cuba, one of communism's most successful exports, apart from the AK-47, is communism. You'd argue. Lots of places decided to give it a go. And the domino theory does hold sway in that, because Castro, once he'd gone full Marxist-Leninist, decided to try and support communist uprisings in other South American countries.
Yep.
So he was shipping them arms and giving them money, trading their guys.
Like
And America were trying-
Chile and places
Yeah.
like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bolivia and that.
Yeah.
Bolivia, all
And
over South
America
America.
was trying to counter
Yeah.
it themselves.
Yeah, so they would support the government.
Usually far right psychopaths
Usually.
would end up having death squads when they got into power.
The Chileans had it
Yeah.
rough.
They fucking did.
Really.
They had their own
really
9/11.
rough.
And it was worse than
They were having
America's.
like proper, almost concentration camps. Like,
They were, you just disappear.
It was fucked up. Hundreds of people were getting lined up and shot into big graves and that, and it was, yeah, they had it rough as fuck there.
But it wasn't
It's the
communism.
only one I know about, but
No, that's a dictatorship. That's different.
Yeah, it wasn't communism, so Americans backed it.
yeah.
At this point, while all this is happening, what's going wrong in Cuba? You said before that, you know, people's quality of life, you know...
Nothing's really going wrong in Cuba. They're recovering from a revolution. They're rebuilding.
It's called a tactical area of importance or something along them lines. You find that they wanted Cuba. America wanted Cuba.
They didn't want them to be
End of.
communists.
That's all they wanted. Because it's a great little tactical island 90 miles off their coast where they can do what the fuck they want and in very, very secret... You know what I mean? They could transform it into a military base if they wanted.
Well,
You got to see what they were seeing.
It would
Yeah,
block.
it's America's sphere.
Obviously, that's purely my theory.
America's sphere influence, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
why didn't they
North
just
and
make
Latin
friends with
America.
them instead of making enemies then?
Because they're communists. Can't be seen to be friends
Yeah.
with the communists. Remember, they based
Cold
their...
War's on, isn't it?
Cold War's on, and they've based their whole foreign policy on stopping communism.
Yeah.
And they also want to make sure that the Russians can't get their grips onto it either. Or
Well,
the
they did.
USSR.
Yeah, they did anyway. You know, they were still giving them money and support, and
Well, where do you think they got the AK-47s from?
the only tourists allowed into Cuba were Russian and East German.
Is that right? Fucking hell.
Yeah, they're only from the Eastern Bloc. The US had a blockade of Cuba till 2015.
Yeah.
My friend went on a tour of the Caribbean sort of area, and they stopped in at Cuba, and then they went on to Miami where they flew from home. It was his honeymoon. And they weren't allowed to bring anything Cuban onto the ship because it was going to dock in America.
You're not like Cuban cigars.
Those
or
cigars.
anything, are you?
You know the last thing Kennedy imported from Cuba before he declared the
A
blockade?
box of cigars.
Box of cigars. Still sits on the White House
Yeah.
desk to this day. That
A
box.
box, yeah.
Mm.
My sister went to Cuba, got me back some Cuban cigars.
Cubans are beautiful.
Rolled on
Yeah.
the thighs of virgins.
My friend Lee had some as well. He went out there for his dad's wedding.
Smooth,
You
are
bought-
they?
They were a little bit dry, to be honest, because they weren't the best quality of Cuban cigars, so they weren't.
And they weren't rolled in thighs of virgins.
Maybe not. Maybe they'd had one or two cocks at them.
Harlots.
But no, yeah,
The cigars or the they rolled against a man's thigh and just rolled it. They had a few cocks against them.
roll it with his penis. That'll do. Gives it the shape.
Why are my cigars cock-shaped?
Some woman saying,
This one's got a bend in it.
Yeah.
tastes like cock. Maybe they go with the ladies.
But no, it was an alright cigar, but it was a bit dry. If I definitely got that, if it was fresh, it would have been mint. It would have been lovely. But
I love a good cigar now.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
nice.
I can't even remember when. I think we smoked it for his bachelor party, maybe. But yeah, they're all right. We must have looked silly out at the nightclub with these big cigars.
Why not? So what's next? Number 5.
There's more.
There's more. To finish off point 4, basically the US is going, look at Cuba fomenting all that unrest. We're going to invade them just to keep the peace. Yeah. Number 5, a MiG-type aircraft, a Soviet-built MiG fighters, all very good aircraft actually, could be used to harass civilian aircraft or attack shipping. Blame it on the Cubans. And they came to the point where it probably cost us a lot of money to get hold of a MiG. So what we're going to do is we'll mock up a replica. We can do it in about something like 6 weeks.
Well, they just use an already developed aeroplane and just make it look a little bit more like a. Like
All
one of
tricks
these.
jizz.
Yeah.
We also have 6 and 7 are a little similar. It's either the shooting down of a disguised airliner. The plane would actually be a US military plane painted up, and it would be remotely piloted. The US public would be told the plane was full of US students, and it was remotely destroyed, but not before a recording was sent out telling the world, because the world could then tell America, that it was under attack by Cuban MiGs.
Shady.
The plan was similar to that.
It's laughable though, isn't it? I don't mean, I'm not laughing because if it ever did happen, bloody hell. But, it is laughable, isn't it? The way it's almost like bloody playground, like in nursery.
Pranks.
It's just like stupid, silly. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
but
just,
the fact that they mock up
Yeah,
a whole
childish.
plane.
Yeah, but it's so
Psychopathic
childish
as well.
Very much.
What
so.
kind of psychos do you
It's
love
like
this
a
shit?
fucking James Bond, an early James Bond episode. You know what I mean? Like 60s James Bond.
Well, the bit was similar to this. It was a slight variation of the plan, where a plane full of agents would be tourists. They would be flown up and then go, oh no, we're under attack. That plane will be replaced, shot down, and they would land safely in their airport and go back to their previous aliases or anuses.
They certainly were anuses.
Certainly were. The number 8 goes along a similar thing, but instead of the passenger jet, you do it with a US Navy jet. I'm flying off the coast of Cuba. I'm under attack by MiGs. They went to the point of like they would mock up the numbers on the back. The pilot would have an assumed name. He would fly out. They would then replace it with a drone. He would fly back to base. He would just go back to his alias and his unit. They would repaint the plane. The drone is being flown. That gets remotely detonated. And then they go to the effort. This is what I love about this. They go to the effort. They have a submarine off the coast, right, to leave jet parts and a parachute off the coast of Cuba just to add to the deception. So they surface a submarine, throw a load of wreckage out with a number of this plane on it, put a parachute down in the water,
Tie some dog tags to the parachute.
You know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yep.
And this is the generals, right? And then they take this plan to JFK, who takes one look at it and goes, well, I don't know what his reaction was, but I'm going to say it's along the lines of no.
Are you fucking kidding me?
You want me to gun down American citizens and blow them up in their own streets?
You'd like to hope
Why didn't he fire him?
that's what he thought.
He did.
He did.
Yeah.
He fired the chief general, the head of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, which is a General Lemonitzer or something like that.
Yeah, I couldn't say it earlier. I was looking at it going,
He was literally just appalled at the lengths they go to just to have a war.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, you having a laugh?
The thing is, he's talking to Khrushchev about this. Him and him talked a lot.
I think you talked to him about that.
He didn't talk to him about that, but he was doing all this back channel stuff, talking to Khrushchev. All right, we'll take the missiles out, but don't tell anyone, and we'll let you save a bit of face by saying you're going to remove them rather than us, and we won't invade.
Yeah.
You know, it's like both men realised that they were very rapidly. They'd already hit the brink.
Yep. It's the closest the war's ever
Closest
come.
the war's ever come, and it could have turned very nasty. A misinterpreted order. It could have been anything. And in fact, I think there was something.
Yeah, there was something about some ships wouldn't turn back, would they?
One of the submarine commanders, his equipment failed, and they just had a scrambled message that they could make out the word launch if necessary.
I think some Russian ship didn't get their memo and kept going.
That's right, yeah. And they were just about to open fire on it when the rest of the ships managed to signal it or something. I'll have a look into that, actually.
Yeah. It's in that film I watched with Kevin Costner.
It's also in X-Men First Class.
Is it?
It is. They feature in the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
So, alright, them are the lengths that they're prepared to go to, yeah?
Yep.
Which, let's face it, going through my top worst easily is state-sponsored terrorism against your own people.
Yep.
That's just horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, but I believe they've done
Every one of those
I believe that,
scenarios.
yeah.
9/11.
Every one of those scenarios.
It
Kept
makes-
skirting around it earlier. Let's thrash it out now.
It makes 9/11 even more
Believable.
Plausible.
plausible as a false flag.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because they've cooked this shit up before, tried to get it passed. Now imagine if it wasn't JFK, imagine it was Nixon. He may have gone for it. He probably would have done.
Well, Cheney went for it. I don't know how much Bush knew about it, but Cheney definitely went for it. And remember who was in charge on the day of 9/11? Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
Could have just gone, I'm in charge tomorrow. You know what to do. Maybe they were remote controlled planes.
Listening
I still
to
think
this,
personally they were planes. But they knew it was going to happen.
It was orchestrated.
Yeah, they knew it was going to happen.
It was.
And they let it happen.
In my opinion, purely just my opinion, they rigged the towers as well.
Yeah.
Like, they knew they were going into the towers. Those towers could have withstood that.
Yeah.
I
No
don't
other
know.
building's gone down.
No, they were built in the 70s.
No other building's gone down like that.
Because no other building's been hit a full pelt by
They
a
have.
But they were
plane.
on about like
They
the
were done-
temperatures that would be
Yeah.
needed to melt the metal frame and the thickness of the steel girders.
It doesn't
used
have to
make
melt,
these.
it only has to sag.
Yeah, but it was
And then it can't support the weight above it, and every
but
other
it's from
floor's
what
doing
they
the same.
what they saw of the wreckage down below, what was left.
Yes, I
they
know that.
found all these
Yeah.
melted bits of metal, and they're thinking, well, how did these melt? Because the temperature from aviation fuel doesn't get that high. They were saying these are like
Paper fires as well,
temperatures that are closer to thermite.
No. I
And
don't
they were
know.
saying there was
Paper fires.
this.
I don't understand why you
This
believe.
is a theory.
Because I don't think the towers have to come down.
You
Of
believe
course
it's
they do.
conspiracy theory?
Of course, they had to come down. It's
Yeah,
pillars of
that-
Solomon, isn't it?
Oh, if you go on the occult side of things, and I'm down for it, they had to come
They
down.
had to come
But
down.
no,
It was the attack.
If they hadn't come down, it would not have had the gravitas that it had.
Yeah.
The fact that the two towers were no longer there, that was the scene of New York at the end of the day. That was any New York scene had the two towers in it. No, there's no two ways about that.
Think-
And New York is like the biggest, powerful, known city in the world. It was
One of them, yeah.
They knew that if they had to bring them down to give that impact, because every person in the world wanted them to go to war.
I think what Mike's getting at, Ben, is you're on the conspiracy sort of bandwagon, but you still go with the pancake theory.
Yeah, you
We
don't
went
believe
through
that they-
this. We had
What's the
three.
pancake theory? What's that?
The weight would just
Yeah.
bring the next
No,
one down.
again, I believe that as well, but
Because that's
I've seen different theories on it, and one of the theories is that it was actually things were planted in
Yeah.
there, and
There's a
I do
contingency
find that
plan.
quite believable. And I have seen footage where they've slowed it down, and it does look like you see little
Yeah.
explosions
Like
going
squares.
up
That
before
could be
it comes
explained by
down.
the pancake theory, because that is all the
Because
dust,
it's coming
the
from
air,
inside.
debris being thrust
No.
out the sides as each successive thing
And
collapses.
why would it
popping.
go from the
Compresses
bottom
the
to the
air.
top?
They were popping before they were falling. Like,
Yeah, and it
I
wasn't
don't
it
know
going
about
from the bottom to the top, if I remember
It might have
rightly.
been.
It-
The firemen.
No, it wasn't.
The point is, we're not here to discuss what made the towers fall.
No, we've been
years
through
ago.
this anyway.
We've
Yeah.
been through this.
We did
It was
three.
years ago I watched this, but
Yeah.
it's just a
We're not
theory,
here to discuss
isn't
it. We all think that makes 9/11 more likely.
Yeah.
it? Definitely.
Knowing
But it's
this,
an
and this is
inside
legit.
job.
This is most conspiracy theories. There's always kernels of truth. This is, unless these documents are hoaxed, which is very, very unlikely, and I haven't seen anything on the net or heard anything about it. These are legit documents released in a mass batch by the US government, and someone took years to find them and went, "Holy fuck! They were seriously planning that."
Yeah.
Thank God Kennedy was in fucking charge. He wasn't a lunatic.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he
That's why
died,
he
and
was
that's still
killed.
another fucking.
That's why he was shot.
And this leads. See, that's the thing. This whole document is the turning point of where the governments have gone. You know what? We could do this on a bigger scale than we've ever done before. At this point, we're the most powerful nation in the world.
Yeah.
But you still need public opinion to go to war,
Of course.
because the public's going to fight that war. It's all very well you sitting there in your armchair watching the battle.
Yeah.
If you can't sell the war, they won't buy it, will they?
No.
And look at the misinformation campaign before the Iraq War.
Yeah.
Massive.
Saddam could hit Europe in 30 minutes or 60 minutes with his nuclear weapon
Oh, the
tipped
media are complicit.
WMD tipped fucking warheads.
Media are complicit in holding these psychopaths in power.
It's because they
Definitely.
own. They
Yeah.
probably own the media,
Yeah.
don't
They
they?
do own
So-
the media, or the media pays them. I mean, look at, let's say allegedly before this, but you know, Michael Gove is basically Rupert Murdoch's dog in Parliament.
It's the adverts as well.
That guy's owned by Murdoch, basically.
Yeah.
You vote how I tell you to vote.
If you watch CNN and that, they get a lot of adverts from Boeing and Northrop, yeah.
It's your American military, American
All those
aviation
sort of-
companies where they
yeah.
sell massive amounts to the US military. Dick Cheney was sat on the wood at Halliburton, which several arms manufacturers, including the one that made the Bradley fighting vehicle, which got blown up fucking on the regular in Iraq because it's not very good. You know, but they do, we'll just make some upgrades to it and charge you more, and we'll keep upgrading it because it's clearly not cutting for the job until we come out with a new one which you'll buy. they got $1 billion contract with no tenders put out to supply the oil pipelines to Iraq. Because they had ties to these pipelines. Dick Cheney sat on the board of them. He resigned with a very nice severance package in the millions to go and be VP for 4 years, and then what did he do? Went back to the board.
Yeah.
The corruption spreads. It's come to the point where the generals want war as well, but now the politicians do. The generals are all massive egos who've got nuclear hard-ons. They've got their shiny new kit and they want to use it.
And the politicians have got major donors like the arms industry.
Yeah.
That are pushing for war.
It's
all corrupt, isn't it?
Is it Bill Hicks when they were doing it? He was at the first Gulf War. And he's like, the generals are sat there going, hey, what's this one? This randomly pick it. 14B. What's that one do?
Yeah.
Push the button, missile launches, takes out like a tank. He's cool. What's the next one? They had all this shiny new kit and they wanted to use it, and they go back to the 1950s when you've just got jet fighters and fucking missiles and nuclear weapons and hydrogen weapons, thermonuclear weapons. You want to fucking try some of it out. And that these are all World War II guys. You know, they
still have the thirst for blood.
Still have it. It's mental. And then after Kennedy, Eisenhower literally came in and left power and said, beware the military-industrial complex in his leaving speech. Right? Kennedy comes in, clearly does become aware of the military-industrial complex because he doesn't want to go to war with anybody.
He wanted to dismantle it.
He wanted to dismantle the CIA. He said they've got too much power for a start. And then
that's why they bumped him off.
I wonder why he didn't survive very long.
Yeah.
So this
and now, you reckon that every president that gets into power, like day one, the generals take him into a room, show him a video of JFK getting murdered, and say that'll happen to you if you don't do what we say.
Where's that from?
That's just some comedy guy. Might be.
That might be Bill Hicks, actually.
I think it's Bill Hicks.
I think that is Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Take me to the truth. That's all happening. Don't listen to us.
Yeah.
This is the nexus back to my original. To bring it full circle, back to my original point.
Okay, to conclude then.
To conclude, this is the daddy of all modern conspiracy. Everything comes from this. The circles within circles of the greatest democracy in the world at the time, alleged democracy, we'll say it is at the time. You've now got generals who are coming up with plans to kill their own citizens just
so
to go to war.
The Americans sort of invented the conspiracy theory.
Well, they pushed it. The CIA pushed it. They wanted to discredit people. They wanted that term bandied about so they could discredit them. But as we see, conspiracies do happen.
And this one, it's legit.
Mm-hmm.
They had this plan, they were going to do it, they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And it got to the president, who at the time, like you say, it was Kennedy, he wasn't a complete sociopath, was like, no, go fuck yourselves, you're not doing that. You want to go to war that much? You're willing to kill American civilians in their own homes to fucking go to war? How insane is that?
Yeah, and most people go around and they wouldn't even believe, they wouldn't even dream this up. Their government would think this kind of shit up.
That's it.
No.
And
What was that guy's name?
Leitzheimer, something like that, Lemmensheimer.
Sounds a bit German to me.
Well,
You know what I mean? Was that a bit of his own payback kind of thing?
No, well, I'm pretty sure a good 1/3 of Americans come from German stock anyway, so when they did the American Declaration of Independence, there was a vote on which language should have been the principal language of America, English or German. There were so many German settlers. It was, I think it might have been the old 51-49 kind of scenario going on for English. So imagine if World War I happens and then we got America as a German-speaking nation.
Yeah, the West side with Hitler.
The West, it wouldn't have got to Hitler because we'd have lost World War I
Oh yeah.
straight away.
Yeah. Certainly, if we hadn't,
If they'd have,
World War II would have definitely lost.
they'd have been more likely to get involved on the side of a German-speaking nation, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
History could have been very, very different.
There's some universe that happened.
It's the Man in the High Castle scenario,
Yeah.
except it wasn't invaded.
And on that bombshell.
And on that bombshell, thank you very much for listening. I've been Ben. You can follow us on SoundCloud at Cutting of the Bull in the PTA.
I've done some fucked up facts.
Oh, if you want to, yeah.
Okay, can we have the jingle, please?
Facts, fucked up facts.
Pete, I thought you were Operatic, so I sort of was trying to match it a little bit.
We good?
Next time.
Okay, ants have social networks which involve them communicating through vomiting into each other's mouths.
Nice.
Still better than Facebook.
Yes. That is like vomiting in your own mouth quite often, isn't it?
Yeah,
Watching
yeah, it is.
Looking at Facebook. Swallow it.
Silverfish drink by sucking in moist air through their rectums.
Well, who hasn't done it at some point, eh?
Do you know what? I saw a silverfish about 4 months ago for the first time in donkey's years.
What's a silverfish?
I kind of forgot they existed. They're these tiny little insecty things that tend to live in like school bathrooms and
Damp.
like really. That's what I remember seeing it as a kid. You'd always see them in the school toilets.
And they come across the floor and they look like fish.
But look, they've got
I know what you're on about.
They've got a little silver shimmer to them.
Yes, I know what you're on about.
They're like creepy as fuck. Bathroom.
I don't know if
nasties.
any foreign listeners will understand what we're saying, but we usually get these little tiny little eely
I wonder
things.
if there's a proper name for them. Whether that silverfish is like a
silverfish. They
slang.
used to call them silverfish, and you don't see them anymore.
But
That's
yeah,
true.
I saw one a few months back at Iceland, in the toilet at Iceland. I was like, no way, a silverfish. I haven't seen one of them for donkeys. Yeah, it's just,
Sorry, what was the fact?
sorry, go on.
They drink by breathing in moist air through their
Yeah.
rectum.
That's
Wow.
what that is.
Fucking hell.
And it is an insect.
No wonder they've died off.
Do you know what? They are called silverfish. That's the name.
Shit.
They've
No
not even
wonder
got-
they're fucking dying out. That's the only way you can drink is by fucking inhaling water out through your ass.
What causes silverfish in your house?
You're a dirty bastard.
An abundance of food and a lack of predators, I guess.
Oh, there you go.
And they just like damp hiding places, dark, damp
Put
hiding
the eating
places.
on.
Yeah. But yeah,
Get the
they're
bleach
weird
out.
little things, aren't they?
Yeah.
Next.
Even weirder now we know how they drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
According to documents provided by his son, Nostradamus came up with his prophecies during trance sessions. I don't think that means the music.
That's what
Like
trans hardcore.
kind of trance, yeah.
Induced by nutmeg, which can cause hallucinations
Oh,
if
God.
consumed in large quantities.
Oh,
Might explain one or two things.
witnessed
I've
that
always
myself.
said that Nostradamus was full of shit, so it
Yeah,
doesn't surprise me.
We've done Nostradamus.
Yeah, go back and listen to that, by the way. What
Yeah.
was your thing, Clay? Full of shit?
I think it was full of shit, yeah.
Nostradamus, the guy that did all the predictions and that. And
So-called predictions.
he's had a few kind of right a little bit.
No, he hasn't. No.
No, not even
No, you can't even. The translations aren't even right.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, there's-
So he,
It's written in a dialect of medieval French that very few people speak.
and the
and
way they've
speak accurately.
interpreted it to make
Yeah.
out like he has. Oh, he predicted the First World War and the Second World War, and he predicted Titanic and
you
a big earthquake.
They're making things fit to very vague general statements about stuff that may or may not happen.
Fitting their want of agenda. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I've never looked into it, but that's all I know of Nostradamus.
Go back and listen.
Yeah. I will.
Go
I will
back and
do.
listen.
I will do.
I don't do prophecy.
No. You make your own fucking prophecy, don't you? At the
That's
end of
it.
the day, you make your own will and way through life. You can change your mind as and when you want.
That's
so
it. Do what you want to do.
pre-written bullshit.
According to a study by the University of Liverpool and Liverpool John Moores University,
Oh, you're old alumni.
old alumni.
Alright then, mucker. Hey,
And that kid.
you met mate Stanley.
Mike went to Sir John Moore's University.
I did.
Sir John Moore, very famous soldier in the Peninsular War. Killed by a cannonball at his famous victory.
It's the way I'm going to die.
Killed by a cannonball
Yeah.
at the site of your most famous victory.
Yep.
Where you held off Napoleon himself.
Well, no, he's long dead.
Where is his reanimated corpse? Who's to say what's going to happen?
Well, according to this study, all cats have an element of psychopathy.
We already knew that, didn't we?
Psychopathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Or
it's 'cause
psychopathy.
That means they're psychopaths.
that comes as no surprise to me at all.
That's why they
You have to
just.
say it like that when you say it in a sentence like that, isn't it?
That's
You
why
can't
they.
say psychopathy.
No, it's pronounced
Psychopath.
psychopathy.
Yeah.
That,
So
that comes as no surprise to me whatsoever.
yeah, well
No.
they kill needlessly, don't they, and things like that.
Just for
And-
fun, yeah.
Yeah, like little, and they'll play with the mouse as they're killing it, and the
And
bird
if you
or
stroke them,
whatever.
they'll just turn on you.
Yeah, 1 minute they're like, "Oh, I love you," and rip your hand off.
Yeah. Can't rub their belly even though they offer it to you. Just a ploy.
And when you try and stick your finger up their bum, they really don't like that.
Right, and Steve.
Joe.
They don't mind your cock though.
I all of a sudden feel
Someone
very...
had to go there.
Oh my god.
I had to learn the same.
I always feel very sorry for Chester. This makes me think I take Max to the vets to get his boosters. Oh, the other weekend, and every time he's at that boy's ever been to the vets, he's had a thermometer up his arse. And now he just walks into the
Sits.
office and sits down immediately.
Brilliant.
He's a dopey bastard. He's figured that out.
How have they come to that conclusion? Do you know? Does it
No.
say? No.
They just did a study, so I don't know how
Fair
they did
enough.
it.
They
That's
just,
their
like,
conclusion.
they just like went in there and just. You're a psycho. Fair enough.
They do show a lot of traits of it.
Yeah.
They stuck a bunch of. It was Liverpool, wasn't it? Yes. They stuck a bunch of cats in a little pen, chucked a couple of Stanley knives in there, and went. Right, let's watch what they do. And the cats were like,
Meow, meow, you make Stanley. Meow.
they're stabbing up each other like
Calm
they do.
down, calm down. Hey,
Hey.
Kenny, calm down.
One of them had a really big perm.
Sorry, Skills. He's got to go to football team though.
We're only joking.
In December, 40 camels were disqualified from a beauty
This is
pageant.
already funny, sorry. Sorry, go on.
40 camels were disqualified from a beauty pageant in Saudi Arabia.
So let's break this down
Oh, shit.
because this is fascinating. Now, was this a mixed beauty pageant? Was it a beauty pageant just for camels?
Just for camels, I'm imagining.
Were the
Female
women
or
there
male?
too?
Crikey.
Were they males disguised as female? Were they camels in drag?
That's really tickled me, that has.
That's tickled you. Wait till you find out the reason why they were disqualified.
Right.
They've received Botox and fillers to appear
Oh
more beautiful.
my fucking god.
You know, there's-
Fillers in their lips and people like.
See, I lived in Saudi Arabia for 4 years.
You did, didn't you?
And so I can really picture it, and I know what they're like about their
They got
camels.
moustaches, sort of thing.
What, the camels or the Arabs? Most Arabs, yes, and
they
camels,
all sport that
no.
fine Saddam moustache, don't they? I mean, he had some good
dear.
facial hair. We go back to
They
the original,
did.
you know.
Especially when they found him. That was an awesome beard.
Oh, it was no Fidel beard. 'Cause that was not the moustache. One of the finest dictator moustaches. It's up there.
Up there with maybe Hitler's.
No, that was always a terrible moustache.
But it did what it was meant to do. It made him stand out.
It
didn't
did,
let's
it
face
did. For effect, it gets a 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
appearance, it's a -10.
Yeah, but if you think about it, nobody's ever been able to sport it since.
That one
He killed it.
He killed it. It was a
He killed the Charlie Chaplin.
It was
Because that's where
two
we
and
got
done.
it.
Yeah, 2 and done. He got it from Chaplin, didn't he?
Yeah, because he was a massive Charlie Chaplin fan, wasn't he? And
Although I do believe that Richard Herring brought it back for a while, didn't he?
Oh, he tried to.
very briefly, but yeah.
Yeah, beat him
That's
a few
mad,
times.
though. That's mad. The beauty. See, I know they hold different contests, but I never realised that they did beauty contests. Maybe that's a new thing. Certainly, giving them Botox. That's
I mean,
just. Ugh.
Yeah, there's a certain stereotype about people in the Middle Eastern world that's often poked fun at in meme form on some forums on the internet about them having carnal relations with their favoured animals. Goats, donkeys, camels. Could there be an element of truth to
Well,
that stereotype?
who's judging this for one? And how
That's
how
a valid
do you
point.
judge?
Who's judging the beauty contest?
But then, how
That's
do you
beauty.
judge the beauty of a camel? Like,
Well,
It's the beauty of the dogs.
That's it.
You know,
Yeah, Claire's right. Yeah.
I
they
agree
have sheep,
completely.
they have,
Yeah.
have cow, like, you know.
My old dog got second most beautiful bitch in Shropshire.
You're a beautiful bitch, but only number 2. You're my number 2 beautiful bitch.
Pepper
So,
Jack.
yeah, so.
Who
yeah,
did
that's what
Pepper
happened.
Jack judge that
Oh,
competition?
yeah, I know, but to give them Botox as well, how do you...
Maybe it's like
It's
like with displaying a dog, maybe there's certain traits that a pedigree camel, let's say, should have. So, its lips
Big
aren't
floppy
quite.
lips.
Yeah, maybe it should have big floppy lips. I don't know.
Good set of humps.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe something like that. Maybe they're judged on how they stand, as they give them fillers, or their
Symmetry.
face should be.
How big their nipples are.
Maybe.
I don't know about
How much camel toes showing.
Yeah, maybe the hooves are
that.
painted.
They'll have to shine them hooves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a full-
See, I'm picturing it in my head, right? I'm
Are
picturing.
you picturing camels
I-
with still their high legs and their bikinis? 'Cause I am.
Right,
Love
obviously,
the hump.
I remember when I lived in Kamis Moshe, which is a very rural part. It was certainly a very rural part of Saudi Arabia 30 years ago. And I remember you'd go out to like the outskirts of the town. You'd have like some kind of cattle market thing. There'd be almost like a cattle market. I'm picturing that with all the Arabs in their white and their red and white hat, towely things on their head, and I can't think what they're called. Does anybody know what they're called?
Dish dashes.
Not her jabs, eh?
No. I don't mean to be offensive when I said that. It's the only way I could describe them.
Don't worry, mate. I once bought an instant Arab kit at Reading Festival and paraded around with a tea towel on my head with a bit of cord and some sunglasses and a stick-on beard.
There you go.
Couldn't get away with that nowadays.
That's it, yeah. Yeah, so I'm picturing that. So a bunch of Arabic men stood around, all going, oh, yeah, whoa, whoa, yeah, she's beautiful, but in Arabic. And there's lots of camels with lipstick, and they've got, like, nail varnish on their hooves and...
High heels.
But when I'm thinking of a camel beauty contest, when they're adding the Botox to it, that's what I'm seeing. And big long eyelashes, like the size of your hands. That's what my brain pictures when you said that.
I'm camel with still no hind legs with lipstick and bikinis on.
I'm just seeing
And they've been
camel
shaved.
crufts. Just a normal camel crufts where they're trotting around with them.
Yeah,
They
well,
just
you're a
look like
woman.
normal fucking camels.
When we think beauty pageant, we think in bikinis and makeup. You're thinking
Crufts.
crufts.
That's just boring.
Yeah.
Interesting though, but
Men's minds. Claire pictures crufts.
Straight to the gutter.
yeah.
It's just do. Yeah, okay. Right.
Okay.
Next, Mike.
Yeah, rocket scientists are not, on average, smarter than the general population.
I don't know if I believe that or not. Because surely they've got to be fairly smart.
It's not brain surgery, though, is it?
Mitchell and Webb sketch, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I like that one.
They just apply themselves, don't they?
I guess if you focus all your efforts into doing one thing, you're going to be really good at it, aren't you? Unless it's like a million practices to become an expert. Something like that.
Mate, all it
Well,
takes
some people
is...
just have a natural affinity.
All it takes is studying. I could never imagine being a submariner because of how hard becoming a submariner is. You have to learn the whole submarine. And I'm shit at mechanical things. And yet I managed to learn it just through 6 months of pure study, single-minded study. And so I can understand what that...
Yeah.
I can understand that because I'm not no bloody genius, but...
When you're immersed in it, isn't it?
Yeah,
you
that's
immerse in
it.
And you become a...
Yeah, totally.
From a master.
I learn the ins and outs of a bloody 150 metre long submarine because you had to
Yep.
Yeah.
for safety. So yeah, and so I can understand that definitely.
Would you have pushed the nuclear button if you had to?
Fucking right? No. Nah.
I think it was a nuclear armed sub.
It would depend, I suppose. If it came to it and we had to use it, then yeah, of course
Is
it
it
would.
the 4 letters thing, right? There's an option, each Prime Minister, there's 4 options or something, 3 options and each Prime Minister writes down one of them, and they put it in the safe. The captain's going to get the key to, and he takes out the envelope, and he says, like, they get the order, open the envelope, and it's like immediate counter-strike, await orders, or sell to America, sell to Australia, something like that.
It's all done over Morse code. Everything is done over Morse code essentially, because obviously there's no communications coming in and out of the submarine. So Morse code is the hardest one to detect.
Yeah.
It leaves no pattern of frequency, I believe, or something along those lines. So it's all Morse code, which is why as a submariner you only get 30 words every other week from loved ones. That's it. You pick one person, they'll write 30 words down, send it to the divisional officer at your base, and then that gets Morse coded in, because obviously if you had any more than that, it would be somebody's job full time to sit there Morse code into the submariners.
Johnny broke his leg last week.
There's 150 people on board. You can imagine even just doing each person's 30 word Morse code. It's going to take a good day's work, you'd have thought, for someone in that office. Maybe not, but you know what I mean.
And the sub obviously receiving the Morse code message. They got to decode it at the other end, haven't they?
Someone's got to sit there and listen.
Totally.
So
it's right. But
so if it's a 1,000-word diatribe from Aunt Bessie,
the cows haven't been doing well since you left.
Yeah.
Next one then.
Cats cannot make long-term plans.
That cat featured ones tonight.
But how do they know this?
So, Whiskers, what do you fancy doing next year?
I
don't know, mate. I can't do anything long term.
Hang on, Chester, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Chairman Mao, I see. He wants to become the dictator of a Chinese superpower. Right, okay.
Most cats cannot make long-term plans. They're the most, the personification of in the moment
They're
animal,
random
aren't they?
as fuck, aren't they? Basically?
They're just in the moment all the time.
Yeah, no, totally.
I
understand
imagine all
that.
animals can't make long-term plans. Can't think of the fruit bat making holiday plans, you know what I mean?
Well, it doesn't migrate or not, does it?
Saying
It's instinct though, isn't it?
Saying that, right, there's a lot of animals, massive percentage, mate for life. They find their mate at a young age and they stay with them for life. That surely would come under the category of long-term plans, because they're meeting.
That'll be
Do you know what I mean?
though as well, wouldn't it? Just
but at the same time,
I think we got to look at is the ability to make a long-term plan involves quite number one, knowledge of the self.
Yeah.
And number two,
knowledge of time.
And number three, the ability to actually make a choice that wasn't instinct, like hunt, kill, feed, mate.
Think about the future.
Think about the future.
I can eat this bit of meat now, or I can chop it up and I can use it as bait to catch fish.
That's it. You need a certain level of intelligence, don't you?
Yeah.
Alright, poo-poo's my theory then.
But there's a dog fact, and the average dog knows 89 words, which is quite amazing.
I fully understand that. Yep.
Sit. No.
I used to tell Blue on a Sunday he'd go in the car to Nisa on a Sunday, he'd get some snacks for a Sunday night or something, or some beers, and Blue would come in the car, my old dog, ex-dog, lovely boy though, and he would know okay, you can sit in the front now.
He'd know.
When I get out the car, and I go, go on then, and he'd go and sit in the front, and he'd sit there. He loved sitting on seats. Weirdly, it was his thing. Right, and he'd go get in the back then, and he'd just jump in the back. Or stay on the side. He'd move over. It was just. They know things and they pick things up.
My mum's dog's really intelligent. You can almost tell her exactly what to do. She does it. It's like, Freya, go get a drink. And she'll run off and...
Yeah. My friend's gone one more of that. She's got two dinosaurs that are exactly the same shape. One's green and one's red.
Is her name John Hammond? She's got two dinosaurs!
They're little stuffies for a Labrador.
Oh, for her dog, right, yes.
And she goes, bring me the red dinosaur. He'll go and root in his toy box and bring it back.
Wow. So that's good, because dogs practically colourblind.
I
aren't
know,
they?
yeah, that's what I
So
thought.
that is
They can see
particularly good.
different
Shades,
shades of
yeah,
grey.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, they see black and
But
white.
she's
pretty
been like
much, don't
holding
they?
this one up and going green dinosaur. So
Yeah.
he's looked at that shade of grey and he knows.
That's the green
that's
one.
The
Amazing.
one.
How much time she got?
He also picks the
Took me-
post out of the letterbox and brings it to
No
her
way.
one by one to get more treats.
Wow.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
I couldn't get Max to do that, even if I fucking tried to use a babby. I'd never got him to do that. He's just mad and daft.
Didn't
You know,
Leia-
sit, stay, and come here. That's what you get.
Yeah.
Bugger and go out.
Didn't
That's what you
Leia
get.
used to hold the treats on her nose
Yeah,
until you
wait
said,
until I click
and
my
then
fingers.
then she wouldn't eat it until you let her. She'd sit there and you could torture her. She'd be like that.
For minutes, like.
Go on then. And she went,
Catch it in her mouth.
brilliant. She was
Wow.
ace that dog, and put it in your mouth, and she'd come up so gently and take it out of your mouth. Wouldn't touch you at all. You could have the smallest thing, couldn't you? She's like that. Oh, she was ace. She was Leia.
She's put like a gravy bone in between her teeth, and he just like take it out without actually.
Dogs are ace. They are. They are brilliant. It's why they're man's best friend.
Any more, Mike?
Yeah, finish on this one. It's quite macabre.
Ooh.
During the 19th century, the UK developed an industry out of collecting the bones from major European battlefields like Austerlitz, Leipzig and Waterloo,
Yeah.
shipping them back via Hull to industrial bone grinders for use as agricultural fertiliser.
And not just that, actually, false teeth.
You know,
The teeth, in particular, some of the redcoats used to carry
the ones they used to
pliers.
find, like
And as you were going along, as you passed the bodies, you
Oh, I
might
need
stoop
them all,
down
eh?
and actually pull a tooth out.
Oh wow.
Because that tooth you could sell to a London dentist for maybe a few pence.
Wow.
After the battlefield, looting was still quite common. You know, the dead lying there for hours. There's no organised medical system. It's who gets back to the surgeon's tent first.
Wow.
You'll lay on the battlefield. Could be Waterloo. The wounded lay on the battlefield 3 days. Medieval battlefields even longer. You know, you've got that many people dead and dying. You've got to bring them off, and who's going to survive? Who isn't? Take the ones who are.
The real tooth fairies.
So people would take pliers and they would, take the teeth out.
I've heard
they
them
would either-
taking gold teeth and stuff like that.
No, just
Or
no, because
normal teeth.
you could sell the teeth because they made them into dentures for rich people, and they were quite prized. In fact, in Britain, they were known as someone was sporting a set of Waterloo teeth. It was a thing.
Oh, never.
These were teeth taken from the bodies of well, I don't know if they made a distinction. You'd like to think they wouldn't take their own size teeth, but maybe they did. I don't know.
They were
You know,
rather
Private
shiny.
Johnny over there has got a fine set of teeth. What if anything happens to him and his face is unarmed? I'm having them. You don't know, do you?
No.
Could happen.
Our cabbages have been grown in the
bone,
ground up bones of the dead.
French and
You're the
The friends.
See, EU cooperation, that is.
Do you know what the funny thing is? You're right in the sense that there'll still be
Yeah.
remnants of it.
Yeah.
Technically.
Thank you much for listening. Don't do the favour, don't join the cult. And do you know what? No, next Thursday, COVID restrictions are going again. You can form a shield wall if you want to. There you go.
I've been Mike. Thanks for listening. Peace out. May the force be with you.
And I've been Clair. Keep an open mind, but not so open that it spills out your ears.
I've been Pete. Aim high, shoot low. Yeah, R.I.P. Meatloaf.
Yes, R.I.P.D. Meatloaf. Life's a lemon.